Hello, 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 and welcome to Mike Cobb's Offshore Investment Report. Today we're going to do a little quiz with Mike based on something I read about Warren Buffett. I read Warren Buffett's top 3 investment rules. Warren is the Oracle of Omaha, so we're going to ask Mike Cobb, the Offshore Oracle, what his are. Mike, you ready?
I'm ready. How you doing? Good to see you, Carter.
It's great to see
Uh,
you. It is great to see you. My two
yeah.
favorite big time investment winners, you and Warren. Okay.
All
I have a
right.
feeling. Let me tell you, my research, found that if you had invested $1,000 with Buffett on Berkshire Hathaway back at the beginning, which I think was like 65, you'd
Yeah.
have $40 million today. So I'm willing to invest a thousand with you, Mike.
All
And
right.
you're going to have to give the money to my wife, obviously, because I ain't going to be here in
Uh-huh.
60 years. And she will. She will. Now, okay. So Buffett's were get out of cash, go big, and define your circle of competence. All right.
Yeah.
So what do you think of those 3? Let's start with number 1. Get out. Now, folks, let's put this in perspective. Buffett does stock investment and land, obviously,
Yeah.
but Mike is the offshore oracle. So let's apply it offshore for our good offshore club members. Number 1, Mike, get out of cash. What do you think? Is Warren right?
Yes, absolutely. Cash is devaluing it at officially at what, 5.5% or something. I can't remember what they said.
7.9
Oh,
is the
7.9. Okay. So
Yeah,
your cash is worth, 8% less today than it was a year ago, right? Or next year, or however they're
yeah,
measuring it,
yeah,
right?
yeah. That's
And
year on year.
yeah, right. And so look, that's the official. One of the places I love to look is a thing called Shadow Stats. If you look up
Excellent.
shadowstats.com or org or something,
Tom,
whatever,
you're right.
.com.
John
Yeah,
Williams. Yeah,
it's tremendous, because what it shows you is what would inflation be if we were measuring it the same as, say, Carter measured it, or Reagan or Bush or even
yes,
Obama or Clinton, right? Because
yes.
what they do is, when they don't like the inflation numbers, they just change the measuring stick. So we're going to measure a little differently.
Yeah,
Here's a great example. I don't know if they really do this or not, but if it were me and I wanted to change the measuring stick, I would put giant screen TVs in the measuring stick, because today that new 85-inch, plasma whatever TV costs, $5,000. And next
right.
year it costs $3,000. And the year after it costs $999. So you know
Yes.
what? I mean, that would be a perfect thing to measure for inflation, right? I mean, and
Well,
things
that's
go
Mike.
up, up,
That's
up.
what they did. That's what they did. They took out food and gasoline, and they put in big screens and washing machines.
Yes. Yes. And you know what? Good for them. I mean, good for them. I mean, at least they're playing the game, but
Oh
I mean,
man.
like, for the rest of us who are sitting out here buying food and buying gasoline and probably not buying, 3 big screens a year,
Yeah.
like, it's just ridiculous. I mean, take out college education, take out lots of things that have skyrocketed, medical, right? Medical. So
Yeah.
anyway, Shadow Stats is great because you can see what I think we would consider to
Yes.
be like real inflation for the common man there.
Yeah.
So I think getting out of cash, to answer your question, getting out of cash is absolutely smart, prudent, and urgent, because if
And
you're in
urgent.
cash, you're going to lose 8% this year or next year or whatever. And so, yeah, get out of cash and get into things that hold value. And as you know, I'm a big hard asset guy. I like metals. I like
Right.
real estate. And I think those are the kinds of things that are smart to be in inflationary periods, for sure. I mean, that
If
they hold value, right?
Well, yeah, and Bloomberg just today, by the way, right down the line of what you're saying. Bloomberg today said that because of inflation right now, the average American in the coming year is going to brace yourself for this one, Mike. It's going to lose $433 a month. A
Wow.
month.
Yeah.
A month.
Yeah.
So here's what that tells me. Get out of cash, get
Yep.
whatever cash you have, wherever it's sitting, it's losing at that rate,
Yep.
and invest in, let's say, somewhere like Grand Pacifica,
Right. Yeah.
your or Grand Belize, Grand Bayman rather, in
Yeah.
Belize,
Land Bayman,
because
sure. Yep.
then you're gonna. I don't know what the annual projected increase. Let's say it's only a couple percent per year. That's a hell of a lot better than a loss of 15% a year, which is where
Well,
cash is now.
well, right. I mean, if you take the swing, if you said it was 7.9, so let me just round it up to 8. If you
Okay.
say inflation's 8 and you're going to pick up 2% on the positive side, that's a 10% swing. That's a 10% swing on your
10%.
money. Right. I
10%.
mean that's tremendous. And and the other thing is interest rates are still low, so it is possible to finance and get decent interest rates. I can't talk about those on here,
I
but
know.
anyway, but I mean, again, interest rates are really low. They're going to rise. They're starting to rise. They're going to rise more, right? So I think if you can borrow in any kind of long-term lock at the rates today, pretty much any interest rate is below inflation at this point. So it's free money.
So both at so instead of having your money, instead of having cash around, which is dropping in value like a rock, you invest in, okay, if you want to invest in domestic property onshore, that's fine.
Sure.
Or if you invest in Grand Pacific or Grand Bayman, there you get, or in El Zante when that's open, or the Reef up in Honduras, there you get not only the percentage increase, whatever percentage is, couple percentage points, better than the lost $433 a month. Plus, you get cash flow because one of the advantages of those properties is you have a rental apparatus, whatever you call it.
We have a rental program, right?
A rental program, yeah. Yep. Which I got to tell folks, I believe in buying anything you can get anywhere offshore, but I bought obviously my place at La Ceiba Beach Club. Well, there's no rental program,
Okay.
There just isn't. And so that's a tremendous advantage. All right. So get out of cash and get into, like you said, the hard assets, commodities, property. Good.
Yep.
Good.
Real things. Real things.
Real thing. All right. So there's you and Warren agree. This is good. I like this. Since I don't know Warren and I do know you, this is a great advantage for me.
Hey, by the way, if I happen to disagree with the man, run fast. I don't, 'cause I don't want to disagree with the man, but go ahead. What's number 2?
All right. Number 2, Buffett said in his Buffett's rules, go big, seize big opportunities in a big way.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
I think you have to go big. I think if you're in the stocks, I think following big trends are important. Big ideas. That's in fact, let me just someday, Carter, maybe next time or the time after, I'd like to have a conversation. I was just in Serbia, which is why it was challenging to get on here to do this. But I was with a group of people who have literally started their own country called Liberland. And it's phenomenal. They had a river cruise. I was invited to speak on it to a bunch of their residents, and they've started their own country. And
how do you start your own country? What about the country that owned the land? I'm sorry, I know everybody out there watching right now is saying,
hang on, stay tuned, come back the next time, and we're going to talk about that. But the point is that, I mean, it's incredible. Anyway, but the point is it's a big idea, right? It's a big idea. And, one of the things that you and I have talked about a couple of times, and I'm just going to touch on it briefly, is this notion of big ideas and how it translates into what we're doing, right? When COVID hit, and it wasn't COVID, but it was the government's reaction to COVID, locking down, forcing people to stay home, right? This is huge. I mean, this shift in society is as big as the shift from industrial or from agricultural to industrial, right? That was a sea change at culture, society, economy, politics. I mean, it changed everything. It shook the world, right? Well, this change is the same. This is the first time in human history that work and the location of work have been decoupled for many people, not for everybody, right? If you're working at the reservation desk, at the Marriott, you got to be there, right? I get it, right? Or cleaning a room, wherever, or whatever that job might be. But for many, many, many people, work and the location of work, have been decoupled. This is profound. And we are just scratching the very top skinny layer of that onion. There's so much more to come. This is a big idea.
It's a huge idea.
Huge idea. This is a huge event. I mean, it's not just an idea. It's a huge event, right? And I think that for folks who can get on it, in front of it, surf it like the wave. I mean, and that's really what we've been able to do as a company. I mean, we were ready for this. We couldn't predict it was coming, when it would come, but when it came,
Yeah.
we were ready with the right product for the digital nomad. You like to call them cozy homes, right? Homes that are 400 or 500 square feet inside, add another 600, 700, 800 square feet outside, 12, 1,500 foot of living space, most of it outdoors in the tropics, a little bit inside. And it's very economic because you don't have to pay for a lot of square footage you're not going to use, right? Anyway, so we were ready with products, with locations, with community concepts and relationships in place to really talk to the people for whom this was happening, the people who were able to work from home, the digital nomads, the remote workers, right? And so there, Buffett's right on. Big ideas, follow the big ideas. Or in this case, follow the big macro societal shift, and be there to serve those folks. And we have been, we are, and we're continuing to. But that's a big one, Carter.
That's a big one. And it's interesting. Let me take it a step further. It's work, obviously. You can work. Okay, you're building cozy homes at the Reef in Honduras, okay? Right outside of La Ceiba. They can work. Anybody who's watching this right now, you can work from there, folks. Your internet connection means you just as much as if you were 3 miles away from a U.S. office. You know what else you can do? And I went into this on Coffee with Carib Carter this past Monday. Folks, it's Coffee with Carib Carter at offshore.club. I have to give myself a plug.
You always do, Carter. That's good. And people, and really, if you're watching, go tune into that. It's a great program.
It's a great show. But I had a piece on there that we had to cut for copyright, but I pointed out to people, I always do the motivation moment, and I'll make this quick, but I think it goes right to what you're saying, that it's not just work, it's entertainment and your entire socialization. You can do from Grand Bayman, Grand Pacifica, the Reef, everywhere. I said, look, folks, I want you to watch this as an example. And I inserted in it, which we had to cut for copyright, unfortunately. Great piece from Saturday Night Live. You may remember it a couple years back where it was called the New Jersey game show called, Oh, do you remember it all? Well, it was a hilarious bit where the guy
send me the link, Carter. I'll watch it. Yeah.
Watch it. He says, I'm going to give you a situation now. And when it gets very objectionable, the first person to push the button and say, oh, then you win. And a very funny bit. We had to cut it. But the point I was making was just the point you just made, is it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter. You can watch that show as well from your beautiful home on the beach at Grand Pacifica as you can from where I'm right now.
Correct.
My not so beautiful home on Rockdale Avenue in New York with no beach outside.
Right. No beach, no palm trees, and cold this morning, I think. It was cold here in Shepherdstown, I can tell you that. So
it's definitely cold. I was so glad my wife had to go to work and not me. It was incredible out there. That's awful, isn't it? She's from Honduras. Her first winter here, she kept saying, Amor, nobody should have to live like this.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, that's why folks should need to be down in Central or South America. All right. Number three of Buffett's rules: define your circle of competence. Define your circle of competence. He quoted in the interview I saw with him, Tom Watson, the IBM guy. Okay. Watson said, I'm not a genius, but I'm smart enough to stay with, I know what spots I'm smart in, and I'm smart enough to stay in those spots.
Yeah. Well, we have a saying. No, we have a saying in our company, stay in the lane, right? Stay in the lane. And, it's critically important. And, we've done some things to vertically integrate out of necessity more than anything else. And some of those vertical integrations. So for example, at Grand Pacifica, we became the utility company, right? We are the electric company, the water company, the internet and telecommunications company. We have to be, because there's just no other way to service North American consumers the way they want to be served with those utilities, right? And so we did it, and it was painful. I mean, because it's not really our lane. Now it is. I mean, we had to, so we did, and now we have that lane, and we can take that same lane that we've spent time and energy and money to develop the skill set, and bring it and do it other places, right? But there's a lot of wisdom in stay in your lane. And the other thing that we've done is we've built a hospitality division because, again, we had to, just like you said, at the home that you have in Honduras, there's no rental program. But a lot of,
No.
a lot of people buying property overseas, vacation properties, especially, they're going to use them, 2, 3, 4 weeks out of the year. But for the other 48 or 50 weeks or however many they're not using it, they're going to want to get some rental income in most cases. So, so we were kind of forced to get out of our development lane and figure out the hospitality lane. The one thing that we always do, though, Carter, is we always bring in really good talent. We bring in skilled talent, experienced talent in that lane to help us build out, that new business model. And then we look for all the synergies that we as a development company have. For example, we have one accounting department. And so the accounting department's already there, and we might need to hire one more accountant to kind of help take care of the, the hospitality side. But we don't have to hire a new CFO, or we don't have to hire a new VP of finance. We don't have to buy a new software program. I mean, so all that stuff's already been covered. So the nice thing is when we, get out of our lane, because we have to, we don't really do it by choice very often. When we get out of our lane, and we hire that expertise, we can then bring the kinds of economy of scale to bear that let us, do it very, very efficiently. And that's one of the things that we do. We do our property management extremely efficiently for the region. And again, those are the kinds of things that matter to our owners and our investors. The more efficiently we do it, the less we have to charge and the more they get to keep. And ultimately, we look, at the end of the day, that's a tiny part of our business. Our core business is to develop communities and homes and condominiums and help people own those, right? The rental program is a way to help the folks who are transitioning into the region and looking for, again, a vacation property that will rent while they're not there. It's not our core business, but it's a adjunct, an important adjunct to our core business to let us do what we do even better for more people.
Well, it's just, and it's vital. It's vital.
Yeah.
You're expanding when you were talking about like the water. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I got to tell, folks, when you're in some of these Central American countries, like when I had my place in Vista Bonita, Honduras, okay, that the one my wife sold and bought another place. When I was living there, the water stopped running.
Yeah.
And I went out and there were these guys working on some sort of pipeline in the road. And I said, hey, when is it going to be done? I don't have any. And their answer was, no say.
No say. Right.
I
don't know.
No say, which means I don't know.
Right. Right.
And that was it. And
right.
Yeah. And so with you, if you go to Grand Pacifica, the Mike Cobb communities, if the water goes out, it's like if I went out here, I'd know when it went out. I'd know when it's coming back on.
Exactly. Right. We have scheduled outages for maintenance and things like that. We tell people a day or two in advance, hey, the water's going to be, we usually do it in the middle of the night from, 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. or something. Right. And every now and then a water main breaks. I mean, this is like reality, but we've got the tractors and the manpower and the equipment and the replacement stuff. And we get them out there and within a few hours it's fixed and everything's back up and running again. Right. Yeah.
So what you're saying is you agreed to find your circle of competence, but then you added like a corollary, expand your circle of competence.
Expand it where it's relevant to your core competency. Right. I mean, if we were to go out and open up a McDonald's, I'm just making up, so go make a paper factory. I don't know, like it wouldn't have any relevance to our business. Right. And so I think that would be silly and probably stupid. Right. But things like utilities or a rental program, hospitality component, we call it, those things, because they are adjunct and important. And your word was vital. They are vital to the success of our core business. They make sense to do, but we are also very, very aware that when we do it, we are stepping outside our lane, and we'd better hire really smart people who know that lane really, really well, because otherwise we're just going to pay a lot of tuition and fumble and bumble. And, and we'd rather just pay a little bit more, get somebody who knows what they're doing and bring them in to do it right the first time.
But you mentioned McDonald's, but you do have what I consider world-class restaurants at both Grand
Yes.
Bay, and you're going to have them, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
the
And you know
new.
what? And you know what we do, Carter? We lease the space. We don't
No
operate
kidding.
the restaurants. Not our lane, man. Not our
Very
lane.
good. Very good. All
Yeah.
right. All right. We're almost out of time, but let me spring one
Yeah.
more on you.
All
Think
right.
one more. Think
One more.
long term. Think
What?
long term.
Oh my
Think
God.
long term.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Carter, I got laughed at. I don't know. This is probably about 8 or 10 years ago. I was still living in Nicaragua, and I had a group of Nicaraguans out to Grand Pacifica, and it might have been, I don't know, we might have had like the mayor or somebody there, but there were some business people, and I don't know, there were 15 people, and I'm giving my best Spanish presentation to them about, Grand Pacific, our vision, whatever. And I said something like, and we're, at that point we've been around maybe 20 years or something. And as a company, and we're 20, by the way, our company's 26 years old. We've been around a quarter of a century, Carter, a quarter of a century, right?
Yep.
And so at that point, we might have been 20 years old, I don't know, or something like that. And I think I said, yeah, we're building a company that will be around for 100 years or more. And like 3 or 4 people around the table kind of snickered, right? And I've got to say, this is why I love her. Val, our VP of operations, jumped right in and said in nice Spanish, of course. And my Spanish is so bad, maybe I don't know what I said. Who knows what I said? Anyway, there was some snickers, right? But I think I said it right. And she jumped right in and said, "No, we've already been here for 15 years. We've done this. Look at it, right?" And then all of a sudden, from the snickers, a few of the people who kind of like yeah. And by the time she was done, 3 minutes later, everyone was nodding their heads. Carter, we're building a company. We've been around a quarter century. We're building a company with the full intent to be a company 100 years from now. I won't be around, of course, but as long as there are people who want to live overseas from North America and who want North American standard product, right?
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and that meets their expectations and their needs, right? The water pressure, and high-speed internet, neighbors, community, right? As long as there are people who want that, I think we will be relevant in the marketplace. And as long as we're relevant in the marketplace, we'll do business. And I think that the opportunity to do this business is, a century or more. And, again, we've been around for 26 years, and I don't see why we're not going to be around for, 74 more. I think we will be.
It's fantastic.
So, yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yep.
All right.
By the way, just real quick.
Yeah.
In order to do that, you have to think long term.
Yes.
Sorry to come back to the Warren Buffett point. You have to think long term. You have to plan for things like, when we plan our traffic and our boulevards, we're planning for 11,000 addresses at Grand Pacifica. And today we've got about 450, right? So sorry, let me turn that off.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, right. So,
Yep.
so we're planning for 11,000 addresses when we plan our traffic flow. And people are like, you're insane. 11,000 addresses. But you know what, Carter? 30 years from now, we may have 11,000 addresses out there. And
absolutely.
yeah, right. And we better, and if we don't plan the traffic patterns, and we don't make the right of ways big enough, and you can't go from 2 lanes to 4 lanes on the main trunk highway, then you just created traffic jams and miserable quality of life. But today it's just cattle pasture and brush. So why not make it, 70 meters wide so that you have the ability to put in 2 lanes each way sometime down the future, right? That long-term thinking is critically important, Carter. So
Warren.
Warren,
Mike, you figure we've got 100,000 Offshore Club members, so that's only 1 out of every 10.
Right.
You to hit your 11,000.
Right
there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So folks, get in now. The plans are already laid out for you. So that's great. Yeah. Mike, this has been excellent. This has absolutely been excellent.
Carter, always nice to see you, man. Yeah.
It's really a pleasure. It is great to see you. Yeah. I think you're in Pennsylvania now. I can tell by the background, right?
Well, West Virginia.
West Virginia. My God. What am I thinking about? I'm in Pennsylvania.
Shepherdstown. But I'm home. I just got back from Serbia last night, which we'll talk about the next time. And I'm off to Miami tomorrow. So anyway, not home for long. And my luggage didn't make it. By the way, my luggage didn't make it on the way over, and I had to live in the same clothes for 5 days on this river cruise while I was presenting and mixing and networking, and that was something. But anyway, and then I came home and my clothes didn't make it, and they tell me that they'll be here tonight so I can do my laundry at midnight and get up tomorrow morning and fly to Miami. I mean, knock on wood. Yeah.
Your luggage reminds me of the great Henny Youngman line where he said, I went to the airport. I went up to the counter. I said, I want to go to Baltimore, and I want you to send half my luggage to Los Angeles and the other half to Detroit. And they said, we don't think we can do that. So I said, why? You did it last week.
Exactly.
All right, on that.
Beautiful.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Fantastic. Great
All
advice.
right.
Great advice. Thank you
Thanks,
very
Porter.
much. We'll see you next week on Mike Cobb's Offshore Investment Report. Thank you, sir. There you go, folks. You do not know, I would wager, Warren Buffett, but now you do know Mike Cobb, the Offshore Oracle, and you just got his top investment advice. So thank you for joining us. Come back next week for Mike Cobb's Offshore Investment Report. Let's do this thing.